What's up, guys? It's your boy, Barca Boy 103, and welcome to another episode of the Blaugrana Faithful Discussion, where I have with me the Meske Un podcast crew, and we're going to be discussing everything around Xavi's departure over the past 24 hours, and also a list of potential candidates, which, lucky for us, has leaked about an hour or two ago. And we're going to get right into it. We have, of course, with us Pablo, John, and Buga, and I want to get all their thoughts on the recent activities. So we'll start off with John, since he has a big smile on his face. And I want to get your thoughts, John, on Xavi's departure. Do you think it was the correct decision? What are your thoughts on him stepping down and not him getting sacked, and the overall situation itself?
Oh man, there's so many layers to that. Was it the right decision? It depends on who you are and what you're going for. Not to go too deep too fast, but I think this decision actually saves Laporta from getting the pressure. Think about this. For the rest of the season, we still get to blame Xavi for whatever goes wrong. But we don't have to risk a new manager coming in and having the same results, and then all of a sudden, well, hang on. It wasn't Coleman. It wasn't Xavi. It wasn't this third guy. Well, who's to blame then? Could it be El Presidente who's picking these guys? So I think Laporta very clever in how he's shining the spotlight and how this decision is playing out. So mixed feelings. I don't feel good about it.
It does put a lot of pressure on the president. Again, elections are coming up very soon, and this is going to be a big turning point for him, because it's going to be his second managerial appointment in the second term as the president. Buga, what do you think on Xavi's departure?
Um, Look, I think I agree. I agree with what John just said, because I think that Laporta is really saving his skin here, and I think that Xavi as well, in some way, has realized that he cannot affect the project. It's like by Xavi resigning, he's saving the project so far, and I think that sort of stability is what Barcelona needs in the long run. Maybe in the short term, of course, Xavi's taking the bullet, but I think the long term is gonna save it a bit. And I wanted to discuss this with you guys and with Pablo here, that is from Chelsea, of course. This is not like a Lampard situation, because I think that Xavi, by himself kind of stepping away from the job, he's making sure that someday in the future, I think he could come back as well. I don't think this is a problem of just like, okay, you've been crazy bad, we're gonna sack you, we're gonna get rid of you. I think it's sort of him taking the step first, because he's realized maybe the situation cannot change. And now, like we were saying with the players, maybe this can spark them a little bit, but I don't know. It all depends on the replacement, I guess. But Laporta certainly now is just the head of the project, and if anyone is gonna kind of fall after that, it's gonna be him.
I think you bring up two great points. Of course, one of them being that Xavi did renew his contract officially, I think 2 months ago. And secondly, that if Xavi does not get a job in the next, I think he'll probably take a year off. After that, and Barcelona might hopefully not go through struggles, he could do a Frank Lampard, maybe come into the rest of the season and have that option, especially since him and Laporta still have a good relationship. Pablo, what do you think, sir, on the Xavi departure?
Yeah, I think it was probably a little bit inevitable actually with how things have gone this season, because I think Xavi was very frank in the fact that if he didn't win titles this season, he was going to go. He said that recently, and I think maybe we all took that with a pinch of salt, but I think he was being very real about that. I think he's felt the pressure from, like, they said, like, the Barcelona entorno here, which sort of just like suffocates you. It's like a cauldron of fire being the Barcelona coach, right? You have to win every game, and you don't just have to win it. You have to play a certain way. You know, we won La Liga last season. There were still question marks about how we did it, but it was always going to be the case of, after winning La Liga last season and the Supercopa with all the palancas and all the signings, if after losing Busquets, losing Dembele, losing people like Alemany and Jordi Cruyff who supported Xavi, could then Xavi go and do it again? You know, could he win another title? Could he win more titles with Barcelona? You know, the answer in the end of January is absolutely not. And in that regard, he was going to walk. There's been criticism all the time. I think the timing shocked me a little bit, definitely, and I think it shocked the players and everyone. Like Laporta, you guys have mentioned, I think it's definitely shocked everyone, but he has given Laporta a bit of a get out of jail free card, I suppose, now. But fair play to Xavi. He wanted to go out like the front door, and not in a bad way, and he has gone out with dignity now. Rest of the season, everything can be a little more calm. We can't really like rip into Xavi anymore, or the press can't, because, well, he's going in 4 months anyway, so that's that, I suppose. And now it's down to Laporta to get in that experienced man he wants, maybe a German, maybe someone else, but he's got to get in that, the right man for this job, because I do think Barcelona do have a good squad. We're just a few signings away from having a very good team, and I think we can't forget that we're the best defence in Europe last season. It's not a million miles away, but because of the fact that it wasn't as good as last season, Xavi's decided to step aside.
What's crazy to me is that the reports have come out that Xavi made this decision after the Spanish Super Cup. And I was thinking that imagine in the press conference after the Super Cup if he announced it the way that he wanted it. Apparently his entourage had to tell him, calm down, let it go sit a few days. Kind of like what happened with Klopp when he told Liverpool in November that he wanted to leave. Probably Liverpool said to him, take Christmas break, think about it, and then if you're really sure on it, let us know. And I think that would have caused a bigger explosion than what we saw yesterday. Because, after losing 4-1 in a final in another country, and now saying that you're going to step down, I think would have been crazy. But I think for me personally with Xavi is that, yes, he leads with his head held high. He leads on his own term. I think this comes as shock not only as to us and the media and all the culés around the world, but also Laporta as well, because Laporta did not expect this. He had the board meeting before Xavi told him he wanted to step down. He was the only one in there defending Xavi, saying, let's stick with him to the end of the season. Let's ride it out, ride the storm. Because, again, no one's really come in now and make any impact, whether it's Rafa Marquez or any available manager on the market. Sticking with Xavi was going to be the best scenario. And I think that Laporta now has one of the biggest tasks that he has. I think this is a bigger task than when he sacked Frank Rijkaard, because now you have a team where you invested a lot in a big moment, where you have elections in a year and a half and the pressure is on you to make the right appointment. And it has to be done before June the 1st, I would say, because you have to start planning for the summer transfer market as well. And we need a DM and a left winger at the bare minimum of high quality to, like Pablo said, this team just needs a few more pieces. And I agree. And I think those two are one of the key pieces. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, I will ask you guys this before we discuss potential manager replacements. Do you think there is a possibility that Xavi could still be sacked? Like, is there something that he could do, or the team, where Laporta would actually sack him? Because there had been reports suggesting that, look, Xavi has said he stepped down, but if results still continue like this, he probably still could get sacked. And I kind of agree with it. Like, of course, for me personally, I've always been, I don't really like this Xavi in, Xavi out stuff. I kind of been just Xavi neutral, Xavi in question, but
Xavi centric.
Yeah, but there is this question that if he continues on this form, even though despite his announcement, could he still get sacked? Buga, what do you think?
I actually don't think that that's something that can happen. Why do I say this? Because you're risking yourself another kind of like Quique Setién situation. We're just gonna bring somebody in and you're just gonna change them afterwards. I mean, it's like you say, it depends actually how bad the results can actually be. I mean, if we lose, let's say 4-0 the next 3 games, yeah, something like that can happen. Of course, I don't expect that to happen, because I do expect some sort of reaction from the players, but I wouldn't sack him. No matter what you do, I wouldn't sack him, because I think it would just create more instability in a place where we are already kind of like, an earthquake in the 10 Richter scale, or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. So I wouldn't sack him. It would just be insane. It would be the worst decision you could make.
I agree. I think, is there a point where Xavi could get sacked? Yes, if he loses like the next 4 or 5 games in a row. Let's say we have, I think, Osasuna, Alaves, Granada, Celta before Napoli. If he loses all 4 of those, could he get sacked? Probably, but I think it wouldn't be the correct decision. Pablo, do you agree?
I honestly can't see Xavi being sacked, because he said he's going to leave. I just don't think it will happen. I think the fact that we are basically going to go trophyless this season, and Laporta knows that, and he wasn't going to get rid of Xavi then. I don't think anything would necessarily change that. Maybe unless we look on the verge of not getting Champions League football, but I think I agree with Bulgar. I'm expecting a reaction from the players. I don't think Xavi's going to be sacked, before the end of the season.
There's something quickly that I think I heard somebody else. Do you know who's Maldini? Mundo Maldini. Have you heard that guy?
Yeah.
There's something that he said on his video that I think is very on point of why Xavi might be staying, because he could have just said, I'm going to step out right now at this moment, right? But he has decided to actually continue. I think it's that he kind of want to test himself in the Champions League as well. Like that he's been a little bit, like, if I'm a manager in that sense, I'm going to stay until I have that opportunity. Because he even said it, right? Even if he won the Champions League, nothing would change. Of course, he wouldn't. But I think he's been a little bit selfish in that decision. Like, I'll do that. I'll keep it.
I think he also maybe has the thought of the club as well, that if a new manager comes in, will there be that much of a change? I think Paulo brings up to a great point that there really isn't. I think there is a point that could sack Xavi, but I don't think there is any chance we reach that point. But John, what do you think? You think if that point is reached, do you think that Xavi could get sacked?
For me, it's the Champions League spot. It's the top 4 finish. If for some reason it becomes clear that Xavi isn't going to keep us above that line, I would sack him. But I don't think, to everybody's point, there's enough time to sack him and have somebody come in that's going to change any of the results. I was surprised when you brought up this question, though. I thought you were going to say, is there anything Xavi can do that would make him change to stay? Because in my mind, if you're reading what Xavi's justification is for stepping away, it's not that Laporta lost faith. It's not that he doesn't believe in the project. It's really, for me, the reaction from the fan base and the supporters and the hate that he and his family have been getting. I think he's trying to speak to the community and go, hey guys, you're never going to have a Sir Alex Ferguson because of how you all behave. So I'm stepping away. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. I think that's the reaction. So for me, fairy tales, right? We make it to the semifinal of Champions League and we get knocked out through some unfortunate event, right? But we show pride. We play Barcelona football. And the Barcelona supporters, right? The community comes out and goes, Xavi, please, Xavi, please. I think that's more likely than Xavi getting fired at the end of the season or before the end of the season.
I tell you what, I think the storyline would be better if Xavi wins the Champions League and still walks.
And walks. Yeah.
That for me would be elite. I think that would be. I think what annoyed me a lot, the most annoying thing for me about the last 24 hours is the players begging Xavi to stay today after trading. Oh, what can we do for you to stay? Oh, please reconsider. That for me questions the mentality of these players, because you have not been. I'm not saying they haven't been playing for him, but you've been executing his game plan shockingly since the end of September. And yet when the going gets tough and he decides to make that step down to ease the pressure off you, you are then now begging him to stay. That's how I feel. But finally, before we continue on with the manager, I want to get your thoughts quickly on the players' reaction. Do you think there will be a reaction from the players? Do you think we will see them go on the pitch, last 4 months, give it to Xavi, everything that he's given us over the past 2 years? John, what do you think?
I say yes from a majority of the players. I don't know if you're going to get something different from Lewandowski. I don't know if you're going to get something different from Gundogan or João Felix. Certain players like a Frankie de Jong, a Pedri, Araujo, those guys, yeah, you're going to see them step up. If not for Xavi, for the club, right? So you will see some, if not most, elevate their game, I think, in terms of the intensity that they bring. I think so.
The Lewandowski was a good shout because, I've seen 2 big reports, one that him and Xavi don't have a good relationship, and another one that he cried during his speech today. So
yeah,
I have no idea. Buga, what do you think? You think you will see at least somewhat of a step up from these players in the next few months?
I think we're going to see a step up certainly from, the Barcelona sort of...
The core?
Yeah, the core, the guarantee seal of approval, who are basically, Barcelona through and through. You have the Araujos, the Pedris. I mean, Gavi's injured, but maybe not him. Like a Rafinha, I expect someone like Rafinha to step up in situations like this one. Maybe a Ferran Torres even to continue with whatever mentality he's been doing. And stuff like that, right? What I also wanted to add is that, do we think that this could be like a massive, mischievous plan from Barcelona to sort of destroy, the bad environment, to just say, oh, I'm leaving, but then at the end he stays or something like that?
I think I understand how you guys come up with that conclusion, but I just don't see it. It's way too risky, because I think Xavi, let's say he goes, I think for Xavi to stay with your theory, he has to win a title, whether it's the league or the Champions League. If he wins neither of them and says, oh, I'm just joking, or oh, we came back and all said to me to stay, I'm gonna stay. Yeah. I think that would look really, really stupid on Xavi, not with the board, not with Barcelona. I think, again, it looks better if he wins it. The reaction that he expected from the players, the reason why he stepped down now, and to get that reaction, he goes and he wins titles and then walks, I think would look better than him to, play on the minds of the players. But Pablo, what do you think? You think we'll see a reaction from some of these players?
No, just before that, I don't think he'll turn around and say he'll stay. But I do agree with what John said in terms of, I think this was like Xavi making that statement in terms of to say like, this is what happens at Barcelona. That I'm leaving now, and I'm going to be here for the next 4 months, so you can all like get off my back and everything. But this is what happens at Barcelona. So anyone who wants to come in, or for all of you to sort of take a look at yourselves, this is the environment you guys create. I think that's a spot on analysis of what he was doing there in his press conference and the decision to leave now. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you expect the reaction from the players?
To be honest with you, I think we will get like a bit of heart in some games, but if I'm being honest, I think results-wise, I think we're going to see a pretty similar bag as to what we get now. I think we're going to see a few more sort of 5-3 sort of Villarreal games that we've seen when we just are a complete calamity. I think we'll probably also see some comebacks, or we'll actually like go 2-0 down and win 3-2, and everyone gets really behind Xavi, and it's like, get in. I think we'll probably also see some dull games again. I'm not expecting this Barcelona team to go and just win like 10 on the bounce now. I don't think there's going to be some massive fairy tale. I'm not going to lie to you, unfortunately. I think we probably have a bit of the pressure off in the Champions League, and hopefully we play a bit better there and try and get like a European run going. You literally never know with the Champions League, but even then I wouldn't expect us to do much past the quarterfinals in there, to be honest. But I think it's going to be pretty similar. I think we'll just sort of hobble to the rest of the season and probably get third in the end.
Mm-hmm. The Champions League quarterfinal is going to be quite tasty. I think there is a bit more of medium to weaker teams who might have a chance, but you're expecting the top 8 teams in the world to be in the final 8 of the Champions League. So I think if we just get past Napoli, that'll be fine. And again, I think you have to get top 2 in La Liga. If we do not qualify for the Super Cup next season, I think that is a massive, massive, massive loss. So that's something that I think is a must. I think I'm not worried about top 4. I'm more worried about top 2 for sure. But let's now take a look at the managers who have been linked. Again, like we mentioned already, it's going to be a big appointment, a very historic one. And again, Laporta has to get this right, especially with the summer transfer window coming up, improvements in the squad, and of course the elections coming, I think, not next year, but the following year after that. Now, I will bring up the possible managers on the screen. These are the rumored ones that we've heard so far in the media. You have Mikel Arteta, Jurgen Klopp, Thiago Motta, Hansi Flick, Emmanuel Alguacil, and De Zerbi. De Zerbi hasn't really been linked. I think it's just mentioned by a few English media, and Fabrizio Romano said that, yeah, he'll be linked with Barcelona and Liverpool, which we could expect. But the top 5 list was Klopp, Motta, Guathil, Hansi Flick, and Arteta. Now, we'll start with Pablo. I know he's sports a London club, so maybe he has some sort of information on Arteta, but I'm not really moved by Arteta too much. What do you think of him as a Barcelona manager?
Yeah, I don't think I'd go for Arteta, to be honest with you. And I'm going to be frank, I don't think he leaves Arsenal either. I know that sports reporters come out. I don't know how much. I don't know how much. I don't know how much. There's no truth in that, is there? I don't know how much truth there is in that. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, why would Arteta just come out now in the middle of the season for Arsenal and say, "Hey, I'm off, lads"? Like, you can't just jump on the bandwagon, mate. So I don't think he's leaving. I really don't. Klopp. I mean, I don't think he joins Barcelona. His whole thing was that I'm stressed. I've had enough.
Yeah.
Why would he join Barca? Thiago Motta, we've heard a little bit about. I'm not sure if he's the one to come in and lead Barcelona.
Apparently, Deco is the one that's really fancying Thiago Motta.
I mean, Deco's got some interesting thoughts, hasn't he? To be honest with you, I'm not sure about I'm not sure about what he's done coming in all truth to replace the likes of Alemania and Cruyff. And then I suppose you look at Alguacil there. I suppose you just sort of put Michel from Girona if he would be tempted to in that sort of Spanish bracket. I'm sort of putting these lot in brackets, and you sort of got Hansi Flick. I sort of put Nagelsmann in there as well potentially. Then you've got, if Thomas Tuchel leaves Bayern Munich at the end of the season, which I think he could, Bayern then might go for Alonso, for example, and then I think you throw him in there. And then De Zerbi is another one. I don't know if I'd go for De Zerbi, but for me personally, I think it's between, or I think it should be between either those 3 German coaches, or then they go to some of the La Liga ones. So for me, it's between either the German 3 of Flick, Nagelsmann and Tuchel, or it's Alguacil or Michel. I think that's the batch I'd be looking at for Barcelona. You've got maybe more attainable options like Motta and De Zerbi because of the clubs they're at and whatnot, but for me, I'm not sure if I'd go for them to replace Xavi in all truth. And Arteta and Klopp, I just rule out.
Mm-hmm. I think with Klopp, he's going to take a sabbatical, right? So there is, if you're stepping down from a club of 9 years and immediately take a Barcelona job, which by a miracle becomes available 24, 40 hours after you announce your departure, I think it's difficult. But I'll give you my thoughts afterwards. But Buga, what do you think about these possible candidates, and who would you prioritize?
I don't think Arteta will leave. I think Arteta is decent manager, but the reason why he's been getting, the success, if you could call it that, at Arsenal right now is because of the project and the backing. So you have sort of the whole club supporting what Arteta does and that vision. I think he could get that at Barcelona, but not the finances to stretch it as much as he can. Like he literally buys like Jurien Timber to be a replacement. He's not playing, but because he's injured. But you know what I mean, like that sort of support. I think Klopp will take like a year of managing. I think that it will be almost impossible to get him, particularly for this season, because when I heard first of all yesterday that we were getting rid of that Klopp was leaving Liverpool, I was thinking I could see Xavi kind of riding it out until next year and maybe Klopp after that, because Klopp isn't going to join another club directly. I don't think that he has that energy in him. If that's his sort of argument to get to jump out of Liverpool, he's not going to be coming to Barca, particularly with this environment. Thiago Motta, too young of a coach. I wouldn't like him. Alguacil, I think he wouldn't leave for Sociedad either. And De Cerro is an interesting one. We have to see how it goes. Particularly, he could be linked to Liverpool, to us. That's one where I put kind of an asterisk next to his name. But like Pablo says, I think it's between the German coaches. I think particularly it's between Hansi Flick and maybe someone like Thomas Tuchel. But the decision that I make between these two of which one is more likely has to be Flick. Why do I say that? Because when I look at even like a Klopp, you put him into this discussion. Who needs more of a change to make this squad tick and be successful? I think Thomas Tuchel, you need he likes to play with kind of the carrileros, with the left wing backs, the right wing backs. He likes to play with a three, maybe perhaps. That is something that Barcelona does in attack, perhaps, but I'm not sure whether he can instill that for the long term. I think that Hansi Flick is a manager more that he likes to take control, not particularly from the tactical sense, but maybe for the preparation for every game. And I think that's where Barcelona need a little bit more of improvements in the preparations. I think that we are literally going to matches and we don't seem up to scratch. And that's the problem where I look at it. I think that we need to prepare on match sharpness, on the fitness, on this start of the game that he was very good at Bayern. So I would incline to him. But if I'm being very, very honest, I don't think there's a manager right now in the world that makes, Guardiola, but that I would go like, okay, this guy can fix the situation.
He's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if there's another name that was popping up, that we know that PSG are very kind of trigger happy. So imagine if PSG go ahead and say to Jurgen Klopp, okay, I want you, I'm going to pay you this amount of money, and he goes. I think then the clear candidate becomes Luis Enrique. Like if Luis Enrique ever cuts ties with PSG, I think he's the one that would make the most sense.
I would agree with that, but I would also mention that when historic managers leave Barcelona, they tend to always mention them never coming back. I mean, I can't even count how many times Pep has said that he'll never come back as a manager to Barcelona. And I think Luis Enrique sits on that pedestal as well, because like Pablo mentioned earlier, the job is so draining. It takes a lot out of you from your family. The media is killing you week in, week out. They don't really want to experience that all again, and that's why they leave. Maybe that interim role that I believe Buga mentioned could be a possibility, but I think as a permanent, I don't see Luis Enrique, although 100%, of course, I would take it. But John, what do you think?
This is hard. This is like I just ate lunch and you're asking me what I want for dinner. This is like my girlfriend just broke up with me and you're like, well, who's next? I don't know, man. It's too soon. Okay, but I'm gonna try my best here. So
early predictions. We're not asking for a clear cut one.
Yes.
Keep in mind, we're only 24 hours after Xavi's left, and we already have a top 5 list. For me, that's already already crazy in itself.
All right, let me take a big swing first. Arteta's a no, and I'm going to say if he did not start out as Pep's assistant coach, I don't think anybody's even mentioning his name. I mean, how many years did it take him for him to get Arsenal's ship straight? But he's a no for me. Klopp is a no because he's taken a year off to get away from the stress. Barcelona will just enhance that. Malta, Marquez, maybe, and I would say probably the most likely for the reasons that Buga was stating, get somebody there in the interim that knows Barcelona and yada, yada, yada. The German coaching options are interesting. I was laughing earlier because Pablo was literally licking his lips at the mention of Tuchel potentially taking over Barcelona. So I would probably take Tuchel over the other German options. But looking at who we got on the board, I'm an Alguacil guy, actually. I like what he's done with Real Sociedad. The way that they played against Barcelona earlier in the year, I'm like, this is what Barca should be doing right here. Hey guys, here's your blueprint. So maybe, right? He's not going to be our Sir Alex, but maybe next year we get someone like Alguacil.
I'll tell you guys my thought process behind it, because as someone who's, I think we can all agree, seen managers come in and out from all clubs and also from Barcelona in recent times as well, disappointment has to be key. I think Arteta is mainly linked because of his La Masia roots. I think Barcelona like to have their manager be linked with Barcelona in some sort of capacity. I think the only time he went kind of offer with that was with Kike Setien. Of course, Klopp, I think, probably would have already been the manager by now if he wasn't going to take a sabbatical and, of course, was available. Again, Mota, I think, in the same boat as Arteta. Good talent, but it's because of his Barcelona route. We need someone who come in now with character, someone who has that, built already up stature, because, we want to try and sign top midfielders and wingers in the summer. Are they really going to pick up the phone to Thiago Motta? No. Will they pick up the phone to Jurgen Klopp? Yes. Will they pick up the phone to Arteta? Probably not. For me, with Alguacil, I agree with John. I think he's a fantastic manager, but Alguacil for me screams Ernesto Valverde in the sense that he's the best manager outside of the top 4 clubs in La Liga. He gets given that big break after, leaving his boyhood club, and it just doesn't work out. And again, if you're trying to sign top players in the market, let's say hypothetically, I don't want this player, but hypothetically, Joshua Kimmich, Barcelona want to sign him. If he's picked up the phone for Alguacil, is that really going to, push him to convince him to arrive? For me, it has to be someone with character. I think if I could pick any manager in the world that's realistic, I would go for Lionel Scaloni. But of course, with the Copa America being in the summer, I think that's going to be unrealistic. I think the most likely option right now is Hansi Flick, because he fits 2 molds. One, he's available, free, not doing anything. And secondly, he is a German coach. I think Pablo hit the nail on the head with, I think that Laporta really, really wants to bring in a German coach with that German philosophy, the high press, high line, the structure around it as well. Flick's now taken a year off of football since getting sacked, I believe, after the World Cup elimination. My only question with Hansi Flick is if he can speak Spanish or not, because I think that language barrier, especially as a new coach, is so important. That's my only concern with Hansi Flick. But I think it's going to be a question of which German coach Laporta goes for. Whether it's going to be Tuchel, if he becomes available, I'd definitely take him. I think Tuchel does know some Spanish. But I think Hansi Flick at the moment is the clear favorite. And if we appoint Hansi Flick, I wouldn't be disappointed, but I wouldn't be too excited. But what are your guys' low-key shouts for a manager that's, let's keep it realistic. Of course, if we could all agree we can bring in any manager in the world, it would be Pep, Luis Enrique, of course, that mold. But do you guys have any other, low-key shouts that could be a genuine contender and option? I'll start with Buga, if you have anyone.
You mentioned Scaloni, which is one that I don't know if I like it. Why do I say this? Because first of all, I think being a national team coach or manager is very different to being a club coach. We have seen that transitions a few times work out, some others not really work out, but particularly in national teams and whatnot, it's like, I think you have to be kind of sort of perfectly matched for the situation, the context, the times, whatever. So I think Scaloni fitted what Argentina needed. I don't know if that is something that he can replicate now in Barcelona, because what kind of pushed him to be at those levels of winning the World Cup is basically he's Argentinian, and he's from Argentina, and he's managing the Argentina national team. All those things give you that extra push. One guy, though, that I think from Argentina that could be linked is Marcelo Gallardo.
I would have totally taken him, man. He's he's my number 2 after Scaloni.
Yeah. And why do I say this? Because I'm not convinced that a Flick, or I like Flick, like I said in the section that I talked about, but when you look at the list of managers that Barcelona has always sort of gotten through the door, it's never really a high-profile name. It's always someone who hasn't really won that much, and it's someone that wins with Barcelona. And I'm not sure, like you were saying, Laporta will want the German philosophy and that. Is it something that he's going to replicate? For me, if you have Flick and Gallardo, I don't know why, but looking historically at Barcelona, I think they would tend to go for Gallardo. I'm not saying that is what I want, but I could see them going. Even like Louis van Gaal is probably the latest sort of high-profile manager who isn't from Barcelona, but he started like in 1999, 2000, and he hadn't won anything yet. He won with Ajax, but it's like we never get someone of that sort of caliber. We never get the biggest manager out there. So I think that Gallardo would be sort of my shout if they're going for someone.
I agree with you that like we don't usually go for high profile managers, but I think this is the time where we have to because we have a young squad who have the experience that Xavi's given him. We've gone for the younger names or like less known names in recent times. I think this is the moment to go for that big name. John, do you have anyone in mind that hasn't been mentioned in the media? There's been talks in the chats of Michel, the Girona manager. Some people are even mentioning Garcia Pimienta of Las Palmas.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say someone like Burkhalter.
I was gonna say Jesse Marsh, you jerk.
I love Jesse. I honestly would take Jesse Marsh. I like the guy.
No.
Really? Come on.
Not at Barca. Not at
We've
Barca.
lost
Don't,
it. We've
don't,
lost
don't
it,
get me on the
lads,
Jesse
Yeah,
Marsh.
we've lost the
stuff,
plot
but-
here.
Come on.
Oh my
Talk
goodness.
about call the season off. Call the next 3 years off.
I'm
Jesse
sure
Marsh.
he's a nice guy, guys.
Great guy, but no,
I
Barcelona.
appreciate this trolling as an American. I like the Mikel shout from Girona, but I don't see it happening. I honestly I don't know if I have an answer for this. I don't see the way. If I had to put money down, I would put it on either Malta or Marquez.
If
'Cause
you're
I think
if you're Deco and you have the ability to appoint any manager in the world right now, that's of course realistic. You can get maybe De Zerbi out of Brighton or Ten Hag out of United, something like that. Is there anyone that you have in mind?
Anybody brought up Joachim Love? Since we're
No.
in the
That
in
man
the land
has
of
been
German
missed it in
managers?
action since like 2018, I think.
Yeah, I think him picking his boogers and eating them on camera, I think did it for him. like maybe he's down for a revival. Because I there is something about I think maybe it was Buga saying about Barcelona not going for a high profile manager. There is something to that. And is there something to Deco's ego? Like, is that going to be a factor in terms of bringing in somebody that he doesn't want to lose too much control?
We have been linked with the Porto manager Sergio Coensao, and that's because he has the links with Jorge Mendes and Deco and back in the day as clients. Again, the main names have been the top 5 and basically any Jorge Mendes client because he kind of runs this club alongside Deco and Laporta at this point.
I might go Hansi Flick then. I might, just because he has the most potential maybe in terms of what could this be, what could this turn into.
Mhm.
That gets me a little bit excited, a little bit interested. So I may go that route.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Probably, what do you think? There's
Therefore-
been some links about Van Bronckhorst as well.
I mean, I will say this, by the way. I think timing is going to be key on what manager we get. And what I mean by that is I don't know what you guys think. Do you think we could actually have our new manager set in stone before Xavi actually leaves on June 30th?
That has to be the case. I said
Yeah.
that.
That should happen.
The manager has to be official, whether we get a Romano, here we go, or just a little announcement by the club. It
Yeah.
has to be done before June the 1st because you
Well-
cannot go into the summer transfer window with no manager. There has to be something, some sort of plan. Again, we know that Xavi's leaving. If they announce a coach tomorrow, I wouldn't be bothered. I wouldn't be, a bit questioning the rushing to conclusions. But I think once we hit the March international break, we'll get the real top few names. I think the signing will be sealed probably around April, May time. It has to be before the summer transfer window, surely.
Well, that makes things interesting though, because then you risk potentially losing out on a Luis Enrique or Thomas Tuchel because they might be, if PSG get knocked out of the round of 16 or the quarterfinals of the Champions League, they could hook Luis Enrique. You wouldn't want to lose out on a Luis Enrique who might go, let's say, 14th of June is his official leave date. You won't want to lose out on him if Barcelona have already hired their coach in April or May. Same goes for Tuchel at Bayern. If he leaves in the 12th of June, you wouldn't want to lose out on him, it is my opinion. So I worry a little bit in terms of rushing to that decision and making sure it comes in before June, that actually then you're narrowing your market a little bit. So that's why I'd say on that, and that's why I think the likes of Flick are so much more likely. But that could, in my opinion, narrow us down to actually a lot more better qualified coaches on the market. I think Alguacil, difficult to get him out of La Real, definitely. Does to me, smells to me a bit of the Valverde appointment that would come in tactically sharp, could potentially win Barcelona La Liga, stabilise the club a bit, get us playing good football. And of course, Barcelona announced that. I think officially announced it in May, but it was set in stone for a while. After Luis Enrique did a similar thing, announced that he was going to be leaving. It's sort of, I can't remember when he did it, a little bit later than Xavi.
I think Enrique announced he was leaving around April. Then Valverde was confirmed end of May, beginning of June. Everyone knew that Valverde was the chosen one by May. It was announced in June.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that would be a potential to be able to be done with Alguacil, but I'm going to be honest. I think if Barcelona for me, I think I would go for Thomas Tuchel, and I've seen him quite closely at Chelsea. But I think that's a top manager. I think he'd walk to Spain if he could, and I think people would be surprised what he brings to to the club, and I think people would be surprised by his character as well and stuff. I think the fan base would love him. He's sharp tactically. He's a really good character. Spanish could be a bit of an issue, sure, but I think with this squad as well, it's probably a little bit underrated actually. So I think Tuchel would be my bet. He really would.
My
But like
thing
I
with
say,
Tuchel
I think
is-
we'll get one a bit earlier.
is how much of a change he will need to make it click. You've seen more of Tuchel, so you tell me.
But with Tuchel, right, he's investing so much money right now with Bayern Munich. Every player he's asking for, they're signing. So I think we are shot with Luis Enrique also isn't quite there because this is his first year with PSG. PSG usually give him a season or two before they sack a manager. So this is like in his second year, and they got knocked out early in the Champions League. I would definitely back you on that. But with this being his first year, PSG usually give the leeway. They gave it to Pochettino, so I think surely they'll give it to someone like Luis Enrique. But with Tuchel, I'm not quite familiar with his situation at Bayern.
If PSG get knocked out by Real Sociedad, though, I think they have to hook him.
Yeah.
They think that's a disgrace. I think no, you don't dare do that at our precious club because they think of themselves in such a high regard. I think they might hook him if they do that. They're not storming to Ligue 1. They'll win it, of course, but they're not storming. I don't know what the full-time score was tonight, by the way. About
2-2. They bottled it.
Well, they bottled their. There you go again. They're not flying away under Luis Enrique. Is my point. And then if they then go and get knocked out of the Champions League by Alguacil's team, who in my opinion play a lot better football than PSG, then they could be in some trouble. And with Tuchel, on that point, I mean, he came into what a team that Lampard was having mid-table at Chelsea. He didn't make any signings, and he sort of shuffled players around, brought players back in, changed the shape, made things work, improved individuals. He didn't spend any money there to win the Champions League in 4 months, and so take Chelsea to an FA Cup final and then push them back in top four from 9th place when he came in. So I don't think he needs that many resources, Tuchel. I think he'll see players in this Barcelona squad who he'll be licking his lips about to work with. I really do think that. Just a DM maybe in there, but even so, there's a lot of quality players in this Barca team, and I think he'd do well with them.
The comments he said today as well were very
quick as well. That's not even 12 hours since Xavi Hernandez was leaving. He's already
he joined.
I would definitely take Tuchel, but I think my issue is firstly the language barrier, but also how would he leave Bayern? Because again, they kind of bet on him. They sacked Nagelsmann mid-season to bring in Tuchel. Is he really that? I think I understand that they're behind in the Bundesliga, but is he really that much under pressure in Germany?
I think so. I think he really is. And Bayern are a club that they go, it's not working. We don't care to cut ties. I think that if Bayern are able to get Xavi Alonso through the door, behind the scenes, they already agreed, okay, you're coming. I think they wouldn't have no problem in mentioning and getting rid of, Thomas Tuchel kind of already beforehand. I think that would be a guy we could potentially get if that happens. So I wouldn't make a decision just yet, like Pablo says. If Real Sociedad, which is possible, they can beat PSG, maybe Luis Enrique is available. And there were 4 names also that I wanted to bring to the table. 4 managers that I think. I just wanted to have your opinion quickly on them. We have Rudy Garcia, who has been linked before many times, but he's inexperienced a bit. We have Antonio Conte, that he would just destroy. I like him, but I don't think he fits Barcelona. Lopetegui, and then we have Mourinho.
I was going to say, we can't go this whole conversation without bringing up Mourinho.
You brought up 2 Real Madrid managers. Come on now.
For me, Mourinho is interesting. Not that I think he's going to get there, but I think Mourinho might want this gig.
Yeah.
Mourinho might be looking at this and going,
He can want all he wants.
I could come into Barcelona and try to win 1-0 for a season. I could do that. I think he's calling his Portuguese compatriot Deco and going, hey, let's work something out, my guy.
He did sign Deco from Porto to Chelsea. So
He's going, Deco, you owe me one. You know you weren't supposed to be in my squad.
I think Mourinho is too far gone. I mean, his recent positions, they haven't really backed him. I think if this is at his point when he was leaving United,
sure,
going into Tottenham, maybe there could have been a chance. But I think with firstly him not being the greatest in his Madrid record, I think it's unlikely. But I will say
I like Mourinho.
Fair enough. But I think as a Barcelona manager, you talk about pressure, I don't think he would survive at all. But I will say this, I think Buga and Pablo both hinted at this as like my final question before we go into the conclusion part of the show. What would be your ideal time to maybe not announce it officially, but select and have a concrete option for the manager? Because I said for me it has to be before June 1st. Anytime before it, then for me is a W, so to speak. But what do you guys think? I'll go to Buka first. What would be the best time to get that manager sorted out?
Actually, I was just gonna look up when's the Champions League final, because there's always a
I think it's
spot
June the
between-
10th, I believe.
It's June the 1st.
First.
Here it says.
One extra zero.
And when did you say we would be a W before July?
Sorry?
When? You said it would be a dub if we got somebody for
Before June the 1st.
Okay.
Before the summer transfer window.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I think it would be before the Champions League final when I bring someone in, because you already, let's say, if PSG or Bayern Munich are in the final, fair play. But I think that time before the semifinals, quarterfinals, round of 16, I think you want that time to see what happens, because that's when managerial changes do happen. And also, that's when we're going to see, I don't know, Ten Hag changes the situation at United and other clubs out there. I'm not saying Ten Hag is an option, but you want that as a club planning for the future. You want a time frame where all the pieces have already moved. You don't want to make guesses. You don't want to make predictions as to, okay, this guy goes here, then they goes here, I can get this guy. You want to already know all your possible kind of pool of contestants and then choose the best one. So I would go between the semifinal and the final. That's where I think it will be the best.
That's fair enough. There's a few people mentioning Xabi Alonso in the chat. That's not going to happen. He's a Madrid boy. He's either going to go to Liverpool or stay at Leverkusen.
We got a better chance of getting Zinedine Zidane to come over.
Yeah, I think the better chance of Mourinho coming in than Xabi Alonso. But Pablo, what's your ideal time to at least have just to know who will be the manager for you to start planning for the summer and for the future of the club? What would be your best buy date, so to speak?
I'm actually maybe controversial. I'm happy for it to be quite late, purely because of the reasons I said before, that I think our best bet could be someone who's in a job currently. I do believe that. So I'm not. Let's say May 25th. I've checked. That's a week after the Bundesliga ends. May 25th for me would be a good day.
I just think it's so risky and dangerous to go into June without a manager for next season, because you're going to be in the summer transfer window. You're going to be a month away from preseason as well. We know that Barcelona do tend to act slow and making these big decisions. Look at summer signings and other big ones. I just think it's so risky. I think it has to be before we hit that summer mark, or else if we go into June 1st, in my opinion, with no concrete option, it's between these two clubs still deciding, I think we're in for a disaster of a new season, because the players will have no idea who the manager's going to be. You want to try to renew half the squad's contracts are expiring as well, and you're going to present to them somewhat of a project. And if you have no clear manager, it's going to be open season. But John, what do you think? What's your best buy date for a manager coming in?
I'm going to give you a range. I'm going to say it is after Barcelona have been knocked out of Champions League, and it is before the end of the season. So anytime in between that, and I'll say when that is will depend on if we're going for somebody that is currently employed or somebody who's not with a club. Because I think, let's say we do go with Tuchel. I think when Barcelona are out of Champions League, and if and when Bayern are out of Champions League, announce it. Go ahead and do it. There's no reason not to. But I think for respect for Xavi, you wait at least until there's officially no trophies to play for, right? You're out of La Liga, you're out of Champions League, whatever. But I'm 100% with you on not waiting until the transfer window opens. Because we all know, even though no contracts can be signed, conversations are happening before that. You gotta start that earlier. So I'm with you.
Especially free agents now. We tend to sign free agents, at least two. Those conversations start in February, March time as well. So it's important. I think you bring up a good point about respecting Xavi, because keep in mind he's going to be facing the media week in, week out. They're going to be asking him, who do you think about the manager? Rumors that Alguacil got the job. Your thoughts on his philosophy, all that stuff. You don't want to disrupt that as well. So I think you make a great point there. But we will see how things turn out. I wouldn't say I'm worried, but I am a bit scared about this next step. I don't know what you guys think as a final question on how you see Barcelona come the end of the summer transfer window coming up. You think we'll be in a better spot? You think the squad will be strengthened? Do you think we'll have the right manager in? Do you trust Laporte, Deco, Uste, and Enric Masip to make these big decisions the right way? I'll go to you, Buga, first. What do you think?
I go for Hansi Flick. I think that's the one I would get. And you say, do I trust them? I don't trust Deco. I don't like him. I don't know why. He's just a grudge with me. I do think that Laporta wants to make a statement, and I think that Hansi Flick is the manager, or Thomas Tuchel maybe, but like we were saying, maybe too late. It's the one that, for instance,
Sorry to interrupt you, but Luis Enrique was just asked after the game about the managerial position of Barcelona. He said that, "Oh, would you be up for a possible return?" He said, "I have nothing to say." He doesn't say no, doesn't say
No.
yes.
I
So
mean,
he's leaving the door open a little bit.
Interesting.
Interesting. Luis Enrique is for me my favorite manager ever, so I would take him.
He is one that walked away too soon, and
Yeah.
again because of the pressure and the stress, not because of the lack of success. So he would be one that as soon as Buga mentioned it, it wasn't on my mind, but I was like, ooh, I would be happy about that. I would feel content about that decision.
Yeah. So anyhow, Laporta and them, do I trust them? It depends. It depends, because I think that Laporta can sometimes be sort of like, oh, I want to get João Felix because I love João Felix. He's been saying that for years. Or sometimes he can be smart and and get the right things done. So it depends. It depends. But like I said, I think the Hansi Flick is the one I would take right now if you have to make me pick. Gun pointed to my head. Has to be him. He has a project. He has the mind. He's free. He's everything. I think that he could work with what's surrounding the club. There's not too much investment to be made. You have to balance all of things out.
I agree. If I had to appoint a manager today, it would be Hansi Flick. But John, what do you think? What are your expectations come the end of the current summer transfer window? Do you trust Laporta and Deco to make these right decisions, both bringing in a new manager and making the key signings in the summer?
I'm losing faith. I think Laporta is playing the perception and the branding and the marketing game rather than the get the right players on the pitch game. I'm questioning some of the decisions, and I don't know if he'll make the right ones. So I don't know. I'm on the fence right now, is what I'll say.
But I honestly, though, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but for me personally, I think apart from approving the Alonso renewal last February, I don't think Laporta has made a wrong decision since coming in as the president. I don't know if that's
you. I suspect all three of you are going to disagree with me on this, and I could be wrong. Would things have been different if instead of spending money on Vitor Roque, we rolled the dice on Mark Gui and instead spent that money in the midfield?
But with Victor Roque, there was no one's heard of Mark Gui in July when we needed to bring in
and
backup
that is
striker.
fair. That is fair.
So that's I think if Mark Gui was having what he had now and we're going up to this summer and this was the summer we were bringing in Victor Roque, I think that's where the questions get asked. But when last summer you're thinking you have no backup whatsoever to Lewandowski, you go and get the best young talent in Brazil. I think that's a move that it is what it is kind of thing. 30 million is paid in installments over a few years. The other 30 is in add-ons, which the club have stated if these add-ons are achieved, we will pay it happily. So whether it's Ballon d'Or clauses or Champions League clauses, whatever the case may be. But finally, Pablo, what are your thoughts? You think the current board can get the job done, make the right decisions and appointment come the end of the summer transfer window?
I mean, people have got such mixed thoughts, haven't they, on Laporta? I generally think he's done a good job. I'm a bit of like a Laporta fan, but it's a difficult one because I just think we're in such a weird position where we just don't really have the facilities to make much happen. Genuinely, like the coach who comes in isn't going to have a big budget to make signings. We're not going to go, you can spend 60 million in midfield, 70 in attack, and then 80 in defence. It's not going to happen. Again, we're going to be scrambling for free agents, for loans on the last day of the window. So it's a difficult position to be in. That's the position Xavi was in this summer. We won the league. We were like, right, let's improve the squad. We lost Busquets. We lost Dembele. And it was like, well, we can't really replace them, mate. You're just going to have to deal with it. And it's like, and that's the situation, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure if I trust them to make the right decision in terms of the coach because I have a feeling they're going to go for one a little too early. And I'm of the belief that it would be worth waiting for a Tuchel or Luis Enrique, but hey, because I think they're worth waiting for and they can really bring joy to this team. I do believe that. I think they're elite coaches that can't be passed up on. But hey, if someone like Flick comes in, then I'll definitely be behind him, and I hope that he can bring the best out of this team. But it's a difficult situation, And Deco, I'm not sure. I do think our structure at the top has gone down completely from last season. If we think about on the pitch, we've gone down as well. Then off the pitch, we have certainly. Losing Alemany is just, monstrous. And Jordi Cruyff as well, I think, was a great support for Xavi. And I think their network together at the top worked really well and gave good stability to this club. And it's probably underrated the hole they've left.
Yeah, Don Mateo Lemon. I think you make up a great point that if we, select our manager, it won't be officially announced, I don't think. But let's say that the media says this manager, Hansi Flick, has been selected. We get the here we go from Romano, all this stuff. I think if we get that before April, that's gonna be a terrible, terrible look because that just shows that you panic. That just shows that you want to get someone in now, get it over with, worry about Espai Barca, Nike, Puma, kit sponsor, and all this other stuff, which they have a lot on their agenda to be fair. But this is a decision where you cannot rush into. Take your time with it. Again, just get it in before June the 1st. I think everyone would be on the same boat. I think we can maybe all agree on that part. And again, it has to be a very, very important appointment. Well, I think that's going to be the end of the stream, boys. Thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully everyone watching enjoyed as well. Again, their links will be down in the description below. You can expect a podcast from them tomorrow, the Mesquite podcast, best Barcelona English podcast on the market. I want to thank them again for joining me. And we will catch you guys next time.